When I first came up with the idea for this video, I was considering ranking all Tugs characters, but as I thought more about it, I decided that some characters aren't really worth ranking. Like, is Philbert the Bellboy anyone's favourite character? I did also consider making this a top 20 video, but considering that Tugs has a relatively small cast, I figured that would make for a somewhat predictable video, as anyone could figure out who at least 12 members of that list would be. Also, I just want to point out that I don't outright dislike any characters, so these are just the ones that I like the most. Be sure to let me know who your favourite Tugs characters are down in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring Toby's bell to stay notified for when I post new content. Now then, let's see if we can't cap off this year's Tugs Month on a high note. Number 10. Boomer.
Okay, Boomer!
Before I decided to do a video on Boomer, I probably wouldn't have considered him for a spot in my top 10 characters. Nothing against the character, it's just that his spotlight episode, Jinxed, was one of the few episodes from the show that I didn't see until I was an adult. As a result, I have had a lot less time to connect with Boomer as I have with other characters. However, doing that previous video has made me really come to appreciate Boomer. He is hands down the most realistic and relatable character in the show. While I'm sure that many people, myself included, don't believe in jinxes, I am willing to bet that most of us have sadly experienced similar feelings to Boomer. He is downright depressed because nothing in his life ever goes right, no matter how hard he tries. We all have runs of bad luck, and so to see Boomer experience this makes him instantly sympathetic. I am glad to see that he got his happy ending, because after the shit that he went through, he totally deserved it. Well done, Boomer, you finally got a win. Number 9. Captain Zero.
Now listen to me and listen good.
Don't get me wrong, I love Captain Star. The show would not have been the same without him. However, Captain Zero earns a spot on this list just for being such an amusing, yet also mysterious character. I find it really fascinating that in the episode that we learn the most information about him, we don't see or hear anything from the captain. The fact that he likely has ties to the Mafia is somehow mind-blowing, yet also obvious. Like, the Z-Stacks clearly have a Mafia-esque design, just to make it obvious that they are the clear-cut villains of the show. And now we find out that Captain Zero has ties to literal gangsters, like Johnny Cuba, just shows us how dirty Captain Zero is willing to play in order to get ahead. I also find him to be a lot more expressive than Captain Star. Star's megaphone rarely moves, which I feel reflects his more stern and disciplined persona. Whereas almost every time we see Captain Zero, his megaphone shakes violently. This is clearly a man who has little patience or regard for professionalism. As for him being amusing, this scene towards the end of Sunshine never fails to make me crack a smile.
What kind of idiots do I have working for me?
Really devious.
Shut it, Zip. Sorry about that, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Captain Zero. Sorry.
Sorry! Sorry, I don't want to hear! Get out of my sight, all of you!
Need I say more? Number 8. Grampus.
They're going to blow me up today. Huh?
What? A third side character in a row? Why yes. Something that Tugs did exceedingly well was how well its side characters were written. They felt just as important and integral to the show's world as the main cast, without either side ever feeling overshadowed. Grampus, I think, is a perfect example of this. Every time he shows up is a delight. He's instantly likable in his debut. Partially given to the fact that he is shown as one of the few to believe that Tencen is innocent and goes out of his way to help him clear his name. He does something similar in Regatta, where he puts himself at risk to save Lily. Again, of his own accord. He's surprisingly brave for such a small vessel. Grampus is incredibly loyal. Like, one of the most loyal characters in the show. The way that he frequently goes out of his way to not only help his friends, but also comfort them in times of distress is just so endearing. I would be remiss if I didn't mention how I, and I assume everyone else, loves the gag of him spitting water every time he surfaces. The show creators definitely did. Grampus is a character that is very hard to not root for. A fantastic addition to the show, and the Starfleet. Number 7. Zoren.
Me, Zoren.
And finally, we reach our first main character. As you may already be aware at this point, I think that Zoren is a perfect antagonist, and a damn near perfect character. The fact that we get to see so many sides of him throughout the one season that Tugs had is a real testament to the talent behind the writers of this beautiful series. I won't spoil the details of my video on Zoren for those of you who haven't seen it yet, but I will say this. The fact that we get to see a more human and realistic side to Zoren, where he acts in unison with the stars, just goes to show how level-headed he is. The perfect fit as a character to lead the Z-Stacks. Chris Tulloch did such an amazing job voicing him. The fact that he gives one of the best vocal performances in the show, despite being the only one to not be a professional actor in any way, is nothing short of mind-blowing. I also really adore the gag of Zoren raising his hat whenever he raises his eyebrows. Believe it or not, this was originally unintentional, as the eye mechanism for Zoren's prop was just too big, but they ultimately decided to keep it as it added a nice visual quirk and just a touch more personality to the character, which I really appreciate. Zoren is one of those rare examples of a bad guy that you actually welcome the appearance of, kinda like Loki in the Marvel movies. Every time he shows up is an entertaining delight. Number 6. OJ.
OJ, you're in charge.
Aye, sir.
An absolute staple and peak for well-written old man characters in kids television. OJ reminds me a lot of Toby the Tram Engine, given how both have been frequently involved in so many crazy action sequences. What I love about OJ is that he doesn't pull his punches. He's not afraid to instantly take charge of a situation or put himself in danger for the greater good. Like, he basically forfeited his life in quarantine just to prevent Tencen from getting into trouble. And he did that without even a second's pause. Everyone on the stars clearly respects and looks up to OJ, especially the young ones, given how he is the one that they often go to for advice or some words of wisdom. There's also a lot of unexplored potential and lore with OJ as well, given he is the last paddle tug in the port. Imagine if we ever got to see a flashback to seeing a younger OJ with other fellow paddle tugs. That would have been really cool. I do find it kind of odd that his real name, Old Jones, is never mentioned in the show. But hey, it just makes him all the more fascinating. I get the feeling that he's just so comforting and easy to be around. Everyone needs a figure like OJ in their life. Number 5. Sunshine.
Sunshine, sir.
Get yourself a friend like this little guy. Sunshine has such an uplifting presence and is in no doubt an absolute delight to be around. Forever the optimist, Sunshine is usually the last character to give up. Even when he was in danger of burning to death, he tried to remain hopeful.
The smoke from me stack seems a bit heavy though.
I'm afraid that smoke's not coming from your stack.
No, I didn't think it actually was.
Damn. He's also super fascinating, being one of a handful of characters to actually change his appearance throughout the show. Not to mention all the implied lore that there is to uncover with him, like how he and Billy Shupak already know each other from the days before he joined the Stars. He also has the distinction of being one of the characters to have their own unique quirk. In his case, the fact that he often whistles when talking, due to having a gap in his teeth.
Hello, Sally.
I like it when shows do this. It makes the characters stand out, and more memorable as a result. He's another one of the show's most humorous characters, ever full of wit and playful banter. Something about Sunshine that I think goes underappreciated is the fact of just how caring he actually is. For one, when discovering the tramper blocking the river, his first instinct was to make sure that Zug, a rival no less, wasn't hurt. Not to mention, he's the only character in the show that we ever see cry when he thinks that Boomer is going to be scrapped. This little guy clearly wears his heart on his sleeve. I'm actually finding it difficult to find the words to explain why I like him so much, so I'll just finish up by saying that he's a character that you can't help but find to be lovable. One of the show's best, easily deserving of a spot in the top 5 and a position on the Starfleet. Number 4. Zebedee.
Captain Zero's little Zebby.
I was originally planning on making a deep dive video about Zebedee for Tugs Month, but writer's block got in the way. Besides, as my favourite Z-Stack, he deserves some special treatment. So I don't want to half-ass the script. That being said, Zebedee is a super fascinating character, given how he's the only Z-Stack to be given a spotlight episode. And what an episode it was. Not only do we get to learn about Captain Zero's past, but we also learn a lot about who Zebedee actually is. Deep down, he really does mean well, and we can see that when he's on his own, he's actually civil with the stars.
Hi, Zebedee! Big Mac, what are you?
The fact that he goes through such a major arc in the span of a single episode, going from cowering at the sight of Johnny Cuba to outright standing up to him physically, just goes to show what he's capable of. I get the feeling that he usually acts antagonistic towards the stars as a subconscious way to simply make his life in his fleet easier. I love that if you watch the episodes in airing order, his last speaking role in the series is in High Winds, as it gives us a last minute insight into his character, and makes us want to see more of him. A great character with one of the best spotlight episodes in the show. Good show, Zebedee. Number 3. Top Hat.
Me?
Want an example of character development done right? Look no further than this guy. Although he's not my absolute favourite, I do think that Top Hat is objectively the most well-written character in the series. He goes through the biggest arc and character shift out of anyone, going from a rude, stuck-up and selfish member of the fleet who almost feels out of place amongst his fellow stars, to being a character that we actively root for and want to see succeed. I really love that after the events of High Tide, he is never rude to anyone again. He does still crack a joke or make humorous remarks, but he's never insulting. The moments when he shows genuine concern for his crewmates are some of the most standout moments for me. We get a hint of his caring side in Warrior when he witnesses Tencen in danger, not to mention how he later cheers for Warrior.
I don't believe I'm saying this, but good work, Warrior!
I love that this happens right before High Tide in the show's airing order, as it leads perfectly into the reveal of his true colours. It would also be sacrilege if I didn't mention just how funny and quirky this guy is. He has one of the most fun props in the show. The fact that he's a railway tug also gives him a unique responsibility among the show's cast, which is something that I really appreciate. Just imagine the possibilities if we ever got a Tugs and Thomas crossover, where we get to see Top Hat transporting Thomas across the water. That would have been awesome. As one of the most well-written and entertaining characters in this show, who boasts perhaps the best spotlight episode, it's easy to see why Top Hat is a favourite among fans. Number 2. Tencen.
I was looking for 10 cents, sir.
Yeah, well, you just found him.
Who doesn't love this little guy? A lot of you will already know that I think Tencen is the perfect protagonist for this show. He embodies everything that it means to be both a meaningful protagonist, but also a superb audience stand-in. He's so full of energy and wit that he never fails to liven up any scene that he's in.
Sunshine! Only good for day workers here.
Might brighten you up a bit, Top Hat.
Something that I really love about Tencen's presence throughout the show is the fact that he meshes in perfectly with the rest of the cast. What I mean by this is that even when he's not the focus of a particular episode, he usually plays a key role in the story, but this is done without ever making his presence feel unwarranted or as if he's stealing the show. He possesses traits that most of the Targets would have too: youthful energy and cheekiness, loyalty and a keen sense to please his guardian figures, impulsiveness and recklessness, and so on. His feisty and youthful energy makes me think of a puppy. I reckon a lot of fans of this show can look back on their childhood with memories of at least being partially like Tencen. It's also interesting that out of the 4 main young characters, Tencen was the only one to actually be voiced by a young voice actor. Not to mention that actor, Simon Nash, is one of the few cast members to only voice a single character. It helps to make him feel all that much more unique and exclusive. I could go on, but I don't think I need to. Tencen is a character that almost everyone has in their top 10, and even for those rare few that don't, it's easy to see why he would be someone's favourite. You may be my number 2 Tencen, but you more than deserve your spot as your fleet's number 1. Before I reveal my number 1, here are some quick honourable mentions. Honestly, every character in this show has something unique to offer. I wouldn't be surprised if anyone in particular was somebody's favourite. And number 1, Warrior.
Whoops. Right, look out! Oh.
This little
You fucking prats.
Some of you would have probably been expecting this, as I've already mentioned in the past that this guy is my favourite. For those of you who didn't know, this may come as a surprise, considering that Warrior is nothing like my favourite Thomas character. Warrior doesn't have a bad bone in his body. I dare say that he might just be one of, if not the most kind-hearted character in the show. As a kid, I felt a personal connection with Warrior. There were times where I often struggled to understand certain things, or where I was prone to making a lot of mistakes. Not to mention, I was often messy and unkempt, just like Warrior. I think that the unlucky Tugs said it best when he described Warrior as a breakout hero of sorts. The more the show goes on, the more he proves just how valuable and capable that he is. While I wouldn't necessarily say that Warrior is handicapped in any particular way, he is still a great example of how people who often have certain difficulties can still achieve great things. I'm not sure if this is accurate, but off the top of my head, Warrior has more instances where he saves the day or partakes in saving it more than most other characters. While Warrior himself isn't all that funny, his antics often result in some humorous scenarios. His stakeout scene with Top Hat in Pyra and his frequent bumping into things in his Spotlight episode are 2 of my favourite examples. I might do a deep dive video on Warrior in the future, but if I do, I want it to be special, hence why I haven't as of yet. At the end of the day, Captain Star said it best, so I'll just let him close off this section as he sums up both of our thoughts on this beloved oath.
Warrior might have bumped into things, but I couldn't have done without him. He was a valuable member of my Star Tug team. A striker, you might call him.
And there you have it. I hope you all enjoyed my little list. How many characters did you manage to correctly guess were going to be on this list? Be sure to let me know, as well as leaving your own favourites in the comments. Thanks a bunch for tuning into this year's Tugs Month. It's been a blast. If you're wondering if I'll ever do Tugs content outside of October, then I probably will at some point, just not all that frequently. I'm thinking that my next video will be another long one, so it might be a while before my next upload. I'll be sure to keep you all posted. Thanks again for watching. Now until next time, I've been Sinners and Ashes UK, you've been awesome, and have a great day. Bye!